Acceptable. Daniel.
What do you want to go by, Daniel or Danny? What's the best?
Daniel? Daniel works.
Daniel. Okay.
Daniel works. But we are live on YouTube, Mr. Zalewski.
What's going on, YouTube? How are you? I'm Peter Zalewski, Miami Condo Investing Club. That's Daniel Hernandez, Compass Real Estate. We're going to talk South Florida residential real estate with a real focus on Miami-Dade County as well as Broward County. This is buy, sell, hold. I don't know. I always say hold.
Because you want to be
Um,
pessimistic. You just want to hold all the time.
You know what? I grew up a Cubs fan, Chicago Cubs baseball fan, and they didn't win a championship for like 108 years, and I think it's sort of built into me. Always expect something to kind of go sideways. So that's why I think I always say hold instead of sell. Maybe I should say sell first, actually.
Err on the side of
So
caution,
Daniel,
Peter.
exactly. So we have a whole list of stories we're going to go through. We'll try to hit them relatively quickly, and we're going to give you. We'll share with you our opinion. Do we think it's a buy, it's a sell, or it's a hold? The overall concept, and along the way, we'll be sharing some insights that you may agree with, you may disagree with. But that's what makes a market. Everybody has different opinions, and that's why we have this market that we have, which is very dynamic but changing dramatically. Some would say possibly because of immigration. Others would say because prices are too damn high. Others will simply say we're the gateway to Latin America, and 1,000 people a day are coming to Florida, and it can't go down. So that's what we'll be discussing, kind of in our own way. So the mic is yours, Daniel.
Well, Peter, I want to kick it off with current market conditions. It seems like we've been in this standstill market holding pattern in terms of the 30-year fix. I went under contract on something for a client about 2 months ago, and since then, since the whole volatility of Liberation Day, which was what April 2nd,
April 2nd. Yep.
we haven't really seen much movement in terms of the interest rate. Tariffs are coming, tariffs aren't coming, how much are the tariffs going to be, where's the 10-year treasury yield, and that 7% 30-year fix seems to be as normal as it's been for probably the better part of a year. What are you seeing on your end?
Well, I'm looking right now at the 10-year Treasury, and again, anybody wants to figure out what a mortgage rate is, generally speaking, you add 3 points to whatever the 10-year Treasury is. 10-year Treasury ended the week, this being the famous 13th, Friday the 13th,
Oh,
13th
it
of
is
June. It
Friday
ended
the
at four.
13th.
That's right. It ended at 4.41 rounded. 4.41. Just as recently, let's see what it was. The end of last week, 4.51 to give you an idea. So it's actually pulled back a little bit, which should be encouraging. It's still, it's marginal, it's nominal. It's not going to have that much of a bearing, I don't think, thus far. If you listen to a lot of economists, you listen to industry watchers, they say instead of it being a seven handle, which again, 4.41 today, add 3 points, that's your mortgage rate. Instead of it having a seven handle, which today would be 7.41, it's got to start with a five handle. That's not what people in the real estate industry want to hear. I don't know if buyers will pull the trigger prior to that. Sellers, you know, they want to unload, at least on the condo side. So this is creating some real concerns. And then lo and behold, just to kind of add to this summer, which I'm calling the summer of paralysis by analysis. Some of it are calling it the summer of wait and see because of Liberation Day and the pause and all the tariffs. Which, by the way, the first round of pauses on the tariffs across the board. Remember when President Trump held up that big sign in the over at the White House and he was talking about what was coming on? That's all coming due July the 9th. So we're starting to get, we're within a month of that ultimately coming due. Then you got the China situation, which would ultimately come due sometime in August. But in addition to that, we got protests breaking out. We got the U.S. Marines in Los Angeles. So you got that issue. And then just to kind of top it off, Israel goes ahead and bombs Iran to try to take out a potential nuclear program that's in the process. Supposedly it was days away. Supposedly some are saying it's regime change. Oil prices are going up. Stock market was down today because of all of the uncertainty. So, you know, I think mortgages are important, but I'm not really sure anyone's going to do anything until at least Labor Day, which was my call because of Liberation Day. And now all this other stuff is simply piling it on. And when people don't know what to do they buy, do they sell, or they hold? I think a lot of people are going to be holding, sitting on the sidelines, being spectators. So they got some sort of visibility in terms of the marketplace. But
historically in
I'd
the
be
summer,
interested in your
aren't
take.
most people, at least in condos, when you're thinking you work with a lot of condo investors,
Yep.
are they transacting in June, July, August anyway? Or are they on vacation in St. Bart's? Is this not just
Typically
business
the
as
way it works,
usual?
yeah. So typically the way it works, the busiest time for transactions is the second quarter, Q2 as well as Q3. Now it might sound a little bit like, wow, why would that be? Well, I would argue a lot of people spend Q1 searching. So they start looking while they're down here. The weather's nice. They're hitting events. They're taking a write off for the travel, for the hotel. They're looking around at condos, and then they really start to close them beginning in the second quarter. Deep into the second quarter, and then as you get into the third quarter, you see a little bit of a tail off, and then they close again in December to try to get it in before the end of the year. And then January is typically, from a condo side, January is typically dead because everybody who needed to get a deal done, they close in December, and everyone who's down here in January is coming down here to kind of play the game, if you will, and enjoy the weather and party like a rock star. So that's
That's
something to sort
funny
of
that you
consider.
see that, because we always see a spike in interest just after New Year's, and I call it
Interesting.
the Christmas time dinner table effect, when the wives are hounding their husbands because the husbands have been promising them that they're going to upgrade their lifestyle, that the kids are going to get a bigger house, and now everybody's kind of forced together at the dinner table during Christmas time. And she said, "I thought you were going to tell me you were going to do this year. You haven't done it yet." So the husbands are all looking on Zillow, on Compass, on the MLS, whatever their platform of choice is, and they're looking for properties those first 2 weeks of January. And then we get calls, and clients trickle out of that. But that initial 2 week period, it's kind of, I liken it to how everybody signs up for the gym the first week of January.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Everybody's a buyer.
I would not disagree with you about that, but I think those people who are looking at the beginning of January, they're probably not closing until Q2 would be my guesstimate. Because
No,
if you
you're
think
right. They're
about it,
probably not
yeah,
closing till Q2,
yep,
because if you're
yep,
financing, you're looking at least a 45-day close, probably
yep.
closer to 60 days. So yeah, you're right. If we take a month looking for something and then we go under contract, you're not closing probably until the end of March.
Yeah, so Q2 and Q3, I tell people, if you had a bad Q1, it's not necessarily a big deal. But if you have a bad Q2 and a bad Q3, that's probably not a good sign in terms of the overall marketplace. But again, I'm leaning towards the bear side. I'm bearish about the market for a variety of different reasons. If you're talking condos specifically, it has to do with the rising costs, the maintenance fees, the special assessments, the insurance, as well as the record high prices. And we're finally starting to see a little bit of a pullback in terms of valuations, but it's nowhere near close to what you need to kind of cover your nut on the, if it's an investment. And everybody says, well, I'm not buying it as an investor. I'm going to live there, and this is my forever condo, blah, 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 blah. But when stuff changes, you might need to actually rent it. So that's why I always argue it's critical to factor in what kind of rent can I get for it. And then if your plans change, you're able to somehow cover your nut. You do not want to be subsidizing renters unless it's me and I'm renting from you. Then I want a big subsidy.
Well, that's why I think it's funny. I had someone call me the other day asking me about one of our favorite properties, the Carillon on the beach, and I had to say, dude, pump the brakes. I hadn't looked at it in a while, because I just brush it off. You know what the HOAs there per square foot are right now?
$150 a foot, $2,
350.
$350 a foot on the maintenance.
But
Wow.
hey, man, it's a resort lifestyle. It's nice. It's awesome. You can put it into the hotel pool. And look, actually, if you are a renter, a prospective renter, and you can live in that part of the beach, it's very difficult because a lot of people have to commute into Brickell. But if you can have your life up there, or maybe you commute to Aventura, and you want to be a renter, I don't think there's a better place to rent if you can afford it, because you have an amazing lifestyle community. You don't have to deal with the HOA. You don't got to deal with maintenance. You don't have to deal with that 350 a square foot, but you get all the perks. You get the beach club, you
Yeah.
get the spa. It's really nice. But as an owner, woo.
So I'm asking Gemini, which is Google's AI, how much is the asking price per square foot for a condo in the Carillon project in Miami Beach? Let's just do it real quickly. And this is kind of like on the fly, but this is the way people could sort of look at it. All right, so you're talking 1,200 a foot is
Twelve
the
hundred a foot.
minimum is the minimum price as high as 1,500. Okay, so let's just play my game. 1,000 square foot place, 1,200 a foot. That means if I buy it, I need 12 grand a month in rent. Now, how much can I rent it? If I'm a renter, what am I willing to pay versus if I'm an
No
owner?
shot. You might be getting half of that.
Yeah, so you're upside down. So this is a perfect example. You are upside down. One of the reasons you're upside down is 350 a foot on the maintenance. Now, so what I always tell people is while you're watching this or listening to this, I want you to walk into your bathroom. Walk into your bathroom and look around. Now, try to estimate how many steps based on your foot size can you take from one side to the other. Then just do some rough math and you'll come up with an idea how much it costs you in terms of maintenance fees. Because remember, maintenance fees is price per square foot monthly. And this is how it never kind of makes sense. Because if the maintenance are way out of whack, you as an owner, you're not going to make any money. That's why you buy small and you rent from somebody who bought big, and now you're able to enjoy it because what you're paying in rent is never going to get close to what the carry is on a property like that. My opinion.
No, it's just no, you're not wrong. Um, so from looking at market conditions, I want to keep us honest on time.
Yep.
I was reading interesting thing about 40-year mortgages. So I've never seen one in executed. I don't even know if they are options today. But when you look at the numbers and ultimately what the financing looks like on one of these, it's kind of preposterous, especially when you compare it to something like a 15-year fixed, right? So everybody watching, standard mortgage, 30-year fixed, you're paying monthly for 30-year period, 360 months. And that's the standard. So when we talk about 7% interest rates, we're typically talking about a 7% fixed 30-year. There's other options. You can do an adjustable rate mortgage, which is going to get you a lower rate that's fixed for X number of years, 5, 7, 10 are common ARM, ARM, adjustable rate mortgages. There's interest-only loans where you just pay the interest in the beginning part of the loan, like a teaser rate, and then you have to pay a balloon payment at the end. But this 40-year concept that pulls the 30-year to 40, and you might think, oh, that's great. My monthly payment's going to be lower. But when you add up the interest on one of these, you're paying significantly more. Significantly more. I did a little table, and Peter, I don't know if you can see my screen here. So I'm going to pull it up for Pete so he can participate here with us. But Peter. You see that now, Pete?
Yep. Got it.
So on a 15-year, and I changed the interest rates here around because realistically, if you take a 15-year fixed loan, you're going to get a lower interest rate. And if you do that 40-year fixed, just like a car loan, right? If you have a 72-month financing on your car, which Peter doesn't because he's a public transit maverick.
No car since 2013.
No car payment.
I made the decision. It was not court ordered. So I just want to clear up any kind of speculation.
But if you look at the 15-year, right? So hypothetically speaking, you get it at 6%. Your total interest after that 15-year period, $140,000. Now, that same loan, 40 years, you pull that 40 years out, you're going to get a higher rate. So I just made up a number, 7.35. You're paying over $500,000 in interest over the life of that loan. And in an economy, in this reality of 2025, a lot of people are very conscious of their monthly spend. And so, hey, I can afford this $2 million house now if I take out a 40-year fix that versus a 15 or a 30-year. Or I don't have the emotional bandwidth to take out an arm because I'd be sweating through my sleep every night. And I think if we continue down this path in the economy, in the housing market, I don't think we're very far away from seeing a 40-year financing option. What do you think?
So I'm not a mortgage broker. I don't know anything with finance. I'm just going to speak based on my own experience. Generally speaking, I think a 30-year mortgage is insane. I think a 40-year mortgage, you're even crazier. I think a 15-year mortgage is batshit nuts. Now you say, yeah, but so what is there, Peter? Well, from my perspective, understand the way the mortgage works. My opinion, I'm not an expert in finance. My opinion is when you take out that mortgage, it's not like you're paying towards your principal every single month and then there's the interest that's kind of on it. What happens is they take the overall amount, they front load the interest, they being the lender, front load the interest, throw all the interest on the front end, and expect you to pay all that down with a little bit towards principal. And then as time goes by, now suddenly it swaps where you're mostly paying principal with very little interest. So what I'm telling you is the lenders are front loading the mortgages, so they get all their cash first. And then when you turn around and you refinance, they're going to hit you all over again. So from my perspective, when you're looking at these properties, especially a condo, and it's not, I don't believe in forever condos, forever homes. I think that's batshit nuts. I think you ought to be moving every few years. You ought to move opposite of a cycle. So when a market's going up, you should be selling. When a market's going down, you ought to be buying. So I would say you should be moving every 5 to 7 years. If a normal cycle is 7 to 10 years, and getting yourself into a 30-year mortgage makes no sense to me. I would be thinking short term. Let me get a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year arm. I got a locked in type of interest rates, and then I'm going to trade out of it by the time the longer or the higher interest rate sort of kicks in from an arm. But I'm speaking from an investor perspective rather than somebody who wants a family of four and a dog living in that house.
From a condo investing perspective, if this is the game you're playing, and it's very much a game, especially in a place like Miami.
Oh no, 100%
so much
a game.
condo
100%.
inventory. Why wouldn't you take out an arm today in 2025 if you can beat your carry costs by 100 basis points, which is what it is. You can get a 7-1 arm today for 6% with good credit. You can do that. You believe in the market. You're unloading this thing before that teaser rate readjusts. Why wouldn't you do that? And I think it's a lot of people don't have the emotional bandwidth to do it. I've spoken to folks who have taken out arms, and some people can handle it, some people can't. But you're on year 4 of it. Your teaser rate doesn't expire for another 3 or 4 years, and you're already stressed out about it.
Well, and and I'm not a tax expert. Check with your accountant. Generally speaking, though, if you buy a property and it's a primary residence, it used to be 2 of every 5 years. It still could be, but check with your accountant. You're able to dump it, whatever kind of cash you make. If you're single, you get a certain amount there's no capital gains tax on it. So ideally, you want to be moving every 5 years and rolling everything you got up until the next one. So let me put it in real terms. So if you're having a kid, and let's say the kid's due, this year. So what you do is you buy in a shitty condo that's got upside. Why? 2 or 3 years, you turn around and you sell it. And then you buy another one and you keep stepping up. And by the time the kid's going to school and you're going to drop 40 grand a year on tuition, you might have enough cash that you've accumulated along the way to go buy a house in a neighborhood where you don't have to burn $40,000 a year just on tuition for grade school. So that's my strategy, but I'm not saying it works for everybody.
40 grand a year. I think Ransom's topping 50 now.
5-0?
5-0. I think LaSalle's at 25 now.
That's why we have all these schools popping up. There's they're building schools everywhere.
Yeah, they're vertical campuses, right? You got the KLA guys. That's the one that I see a lot. Speaking of new people coming in here, and I want to jump to the next topic. Can you see the rundown? Or did I lose it?
I do not see it. Nope.
All right, let me pull it back up for you. So speaking of looking for new places, how do we look for new places? You're moving here from New York, Madrid, Venezuela, wherever. How are people finding houses today? I think a lot of folks turn to Zillow because, well, they market harder than anyone else. Zillow, I think they do have a brokerage, or maybe it's in a few
Oh, they
states.
do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They still have a brokerage. They
Um,
also had a private equity arm, which was a complete disaster. They were buying properties based on their own estimates. They lost their ass.
oh,
They had to
right,
dump
right, and they
everything in bulk.
paid, and the algorithm was all messed up, and they overpaid for all this stuff.
All messed up. All
Yeah.
completely messed up. So Daniel, my perspective is, if you look at some Wall Street analysts, Zillow's business is not real estate. Their business is advertising.
Oh,
That's all they
absolutely.
do is sell ads.
And I'll tell you, I am a former client of Zillow advertising, and they are expensive.
Really?
No, it's I mean they're very pricey, but you know their leads work, right? Like they have a good lead engine when they don't. It's like playing it's like going to Vegas and playing the slot machine that gives you the best odds. The odds are still very
Yep.
much
Yep.
against you, but it's better than most other things. And it's and the minimum buy-in is, you know, $100 a coin for the slot machine. You can't play the penny slots with Zillow. The problem with Zillow is is that they are an ad machine. So
I mean,
I as
that's their business. They
I,
basically have replaced the classified ads at the Miami Herald or wherever you
right,
are.
no
You
nobody
know, you know, I
nobody puts
remember.
ads. So
Yeah.
I'm a content creator for Zillow. I'm a real estate agent. Zillow's content are listings, and
Yep.
they aggregate my listings, my work, the photographs that I pay for my clients, or that my clients pay for themselves, and they put them on their website, and they sell ads, and they sell me leads back. That's their business model. And so, you know, I work at Compass, right? Compass is my broker. Robert Refkin, love Robert Refkin. He's been very outspoken about why Zillow's bad. Zillow, you know what? They suck. They're littered with ads. You know what? I invite anybody to come call me. We'll go on the Compass platform, and you tell me Compass's platform, Compass's search platform, isn't the most intuitive and streamlined home search experience anyone can have. I mean, they spent $1 bazillion when they raised the money from SoftBank. And seriously, we are a tech-enabled brokerage. I know it gets a lot of fluff, but our tech is great. Our backend is great. Our CRM is great. And then our portal for our clients, it works. And I don't solicit feedback. I have people saying like, wow, this is great. I don't care if you're not buying a house with me. Go on the Compass platform. Use the Compass platform. It's nice. There's no ads. Nobody's selling your data. I'm not. And it's a good experience, and it plugs right into the MLS. So what's happening now, and you know this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
why I
But
want.
if I could just stop you though, but yeah, but I think the challenge though is you guys are on the sell side because you're on
No,
the sell side.
we're on the buy side too.
Yeah, I know, but a lot of people are going to sort of say, yeah, okay, they're on the south side, so their job is Convention or Visitor Bureau. And I'm not talking about Compass only. I'm talking about the industry, the Realtor Association. They're all about pitching and talking and blah blah blah. So there's a certain segment that's just like, they're sell side guys. I don't know if I can necessarily trust them. Now I get the opposite because I'm on the buy side, and on the buy side, they're like, oh, he's too pessimistic, he's chicken little. So you kind of got both sides. So I would say, like you said, Daniel, yeah, go to Compass, but also go elsewhere to kind of check it around. I think you need to
No,
be,
you need to
you need
shop
to be
around,
sampling.
and
Yep.
you're gonna have to start doing this because now Zillow's come out and said, "Oh yeah, Mr. Refkin, you want to do these private exclusives?" I'm going to tell you what a private exclusive is right now. So a private exclusive is a pre-market listing. So Compass has this whole back end, and we do more volume than anybody else in the country. You know, big volume brokerage. We do high end. We do everything, and we now have the ability. We've had the ability to pre-market listings within our own group within Compass, inter Compass, intra Compass, and Zillow doesn't like that because if it's on our intranet, they can't aggregate it from the MLS because it's not on the MLS. Well, you know what, Zillow? Fuck you, tough shit. Really?
So okay, but let me ask you though. So if Compass is part of the Miami Association of Realtors, or let's say an association of realtors, one of the rules of engagement, unless it changed as a result of the antitrust lawsuit, is if if you get a list, you cannot have a pocket listing. You got to sign the listing agreement, and then it's got to go into the MLS.
They
Those are the
can.
rules of engagement for all realtors to be able to play with that.
Your client can sign a waiver, that allows me to market it with Encompass, but I can't market it outside. I can market it
Okay, okay,
inside,
okay. So it's
and
kind of
then
like a
and
dark
then
pool or something.
and then there's the clear cooperation. That's what you're talking about, clear cooperation, right?
Yep, yep, yep,
So
yep,
then
yep.
after a certain point, we can share that with every other brokerage. We don't have to put it on the MLS, but as long as we're sharing it with everyone, we have a book, a physical book. You can come into our office in Coconut Grove and you can look at all the private exclusives in a book. And you can come and see it. We're not pocketing anything. They're public. They're just not on the MLS yet. And that's really
So this is kind of like, so we're going back to where we were, because
this
that's
is
kind
and
of how
this
it worked before.
well, and this is really powerful because now Zillow's not really showing you everything then. And if
Yeah,
Compass is doing it, you better believe Douglas Elliman's doing it, Caldwell Banker's
yep,
doing it. If everybody's got these I'll call them semi-private listings, right? Because they're private, but they're not really private. These semi-private listings, then Zillow's like, the kid in the schoolyard who nobody's playing with. And you know what?
Woo.
Good.
It sounds like the Realtor Association might have some problems then, because in theory, if you kind of just play it out, let's just say it gets popular, and let's just say, like you said, Compass is doing it, and assuming some of the other big brokerage houses are doing it, at some point you're not going to need the Realtor Association other than lobbying purposes, and we see how well that went based on
Didn't do a
based
good
on the
job.
anti-settlement. So is this the end of the Realtor Association? And that's
I don't.
rhetorical.
I think.
I don't want you to answer it.
No, I think that might be jumping the gun. I
Okay,
think.
okay, okay.
I think
And,
that
oh, and by the
that
way, for disclosure, I was on the corporate board of directors of the Miami Association of Realtors. I love them. I love everybody over there. But that being said, you can kind of,
yeah,
I'm not a
but
convention visitor bureau guy.
I don't look. I love Miami Realtors. They give. By the way, their educational programs are fantastic. The barrier
Yep,
to entry to become a realtor is very low. You don't have to know much,
yep,
but you can become a realtor, and then they give a lot of support. You need to learn contracts. You can go take a contract class. You want to do marketing, you can take a
yep.
marketing class, and that costs $1,000 a year. Shit, University of Miami with room and board is like $95,000 a year. You can get more practical knowledge from Miami Realtors with $1,000 a year membership than you can get as a freshman at University of Miami. How's that for you?
I love it. I mean, for me personally, I would prefer if they were more like the Federal Reserve, though, where they come out, they don't take an opinion on anything, they just release the numbers, make of it what you want, rather than being more. It's too much pom poms in cheering for me. If they were to, you know, boil it
Simmer
down and be more
down.
like Jay Powell, have whoever come on board and be like, don't answer the questions. This is our mandate. This is what we do. I'll leave it up to you guys to decide. We don't get into politics. If they did that, I think it would actually benefit them, because, my perspective
I
is they're
think it
too
just
rah rah rah.
it comes with the territory. I mean, National Association of
You're
Realtors
probably right.
aren't they the like one of the largest lobbying bodies in the country?
Well,
Like
you see
they're
how
up
well
there.
that went with the
Yeah, I
antitrust
mean,
laws.
so then maybe they should hire the cigarette guys because those guys do great.
Hey, why do they have to be men?
Sorry.
Rhetorical.
All
All
right,
right, we're over time.
we're over time. Let's go back to market conditions. I think we're both a hold on that, and then
Oh, yep.
financing options. I don't want anything to do with a 40-year mortgage. You don't want anything to do with a 30-year mortgage. So I'm selling that idea.
Absolute sell.
And then Zillow and private exclusives. I mean, so you think I know ever pessimistic Peter over here. He wants to see, well, no, not that he wants to see, but he foreshadows maybe an end to local realtors associations.
I want transparency. I want
I
transparency.
want
Take it all, put
transparency.
it all up there, let people figure it out. Otherwise, groups are going to go around, collect it all, and then provide their own transparency. And that's where they get the ability to sort of control it.
Well, I don't think this was anything done to lessen the power of the MLS. I think the MLS is great. It's a marketplace. It's a poster board. It's a forum. I think this was a
A
direct
voluntary
attack.
database that
I
you
think
may or may not get accurate information. My
I
opinion.
I think that this was pushed. This was pushed to bring a gun to the negotiating table of Zillow, saying, "Hey guys, you've been getting this stuff for free or for really cheap for a long time, and you guys make a lot of money, and we work as realtors really freaking hard. And
Now, I'm
then
with you on
you
that.
you have the nerve to turn around and try to sell us shitty or not so shitty leads. I don't care the quality of the leads, but I mean, come on.
I was and let me give you a perfect story that sort of ties into this. So I was hitchhiking in Tasmania, and I got picked up by this guy
Wait,
from New Zealand.
you were hitchhiking in
I was
Tasmania.
I was I was hitchhiking in Tasmania. Yeah, I used to work in Australia, so I went away to Tasmania for a while, little island just south of the mainland, and I'm hitchhiking. This Kiwi New Zealander picks me up. His fiance at the time, or his girlfriend at the time, gave him an ultimatum: we either get married or we don't. You got 2 weeks to decide. So he pissed off to Tasmania. So I'm hitchhiking. He picks me up. Blah, blah, blah. I get to know him and stuff like that. And he goes, "Listen, let me tell you something about you Yanks, i.e., what we do in the United States." He says, we can make a better product, and we do in New Zealand. It could be soybean, it could be lamb or mutton, whatever you want to call it. It could be whatever. But you guys have an ability to take it, put a spin on it, market the hell out of it, and add value. And what I would tell you is under your scenario, the MLS is New Zealand. They can make a good product, but Zillow's bringing the sparkle. They're bringing the suave part, the
Well, because
Hollywood
they
to it.
have a bazillion-dollar marketing budget. They are a marketing company.
100%, and it's all they do is sell ads. So I think it's the same type of situation. MLS is meat and potatoes. It's most of the time right, and Zillow, who cares? They're taking in the MLS information. According to Professor Ken Johnson, he's now at the University of Mississippi. Had a real estate over there. Used to run Florida Atlantic. They did a study. They found to be a roughly, call it 85% ballpark of Zillow's information is directly from the MLS. And then what they have is this extra bit, which I think effectively is what you're talking about, Daniel. The like pocket listings and or private semi-private listings. So it sounds like a very similar strategy. And we all know what happened when they had their private equity group, who got slaughtered, crushed on their investments they were buying based on their own metrics,
It was a
which are
bunch of
based off the
properties
MLS.
nationally, but particularly in Seattle, right? That's where they're based.
Good question. I don't remember. I just remember hearing the CEO having to come out and announce that they made some bad decisions, and the Zestimate it wasn't very zesty.
All right. So, are you a buy, sell, hold on Zillow right now?
Um, I'm a hold because I just think that they're smoke and mirrors to me.
Me too. So that brings us into something else that I saw. Um, Seniors, right? We talk a lot about affordable housing on the show. We are both from Miami. We're based in Miami. Well, actually, Peter, you're from Miami at this point. Peter's from Missouri. I was actually
No, no,
born in
Chicago. I went to school in
Chicago.
Missouri.
Went to Mizzou. Is that what they call it? Mizzou.
Yeah, Mizzou, and
Mizzou.
then moved here in '93.
So, oh, you're not a pre-Andrew guy? I thought you were a pre-Andrew guy. You came post-Andrew?
No, no, they were cleaning up Andrew when I got here. That's when you were drove down US 1 in Miami, and none of the trees still had leaves.
I wasn't driving anywhere in 1993. I was running around in Pampers.
Nice, nice. Yeah, yeah. Well, for anybody who wants a little tidbit, when after Andrew hit in Homestead, everybody got paid off. Locals at the time, they were calling it St. Andrew, kind of like St. Nick, because they all put in claims and they got huge payouts, whether they were deserved or not. They took the cash, they didn't know where the hell to move. So they all moved to Miramar because Miramar had a bunch of unsold houses. So the reason Miramar actually came around was because of Andrew. And then we all know what happened to the building codes and condos and so on and so forth. But yeah, but that was really an important moment in the history of real estate in South Florida.
So what's happening? So we the struggling seniors topic. This has to do with a lot of things, right? This has to do with
Yep.
affordability, but you can't talk about senior affordability without talking about the condo and HOA crisis because who bought condos in the 80s and 90s here? Retirees. And now these
Yep.
retirees, they retired in the 80s and 90s, maybe when they were 60, 65, and now they're 85 and they've been on fixed income
Yep.
and Social Security. And maybe some of them have passed away, some of them have continued to live well into their octogenarian years, into their 90s even, and they own these condos. They bought these condos, throwing a number out there, say for $30,000, $40,000 in the late 80s. They're locked in to a homesteaded tax of maybe a couple $1,000s a year. Their HOAs have steadily risen with inflation, and then Surfside happened, and we've
Boom.
seen a J curve. in terms of maintenance and HOA. And the result of this, and we'll talk about this in the last topic, has been a flood of condo terminations. And
Well, at least attempts at it. A lot of attempts. Some of them are getting over the finish line, but it's again, it's like herding cats. Every owner thinks different price.
Where were all these condo conversions that happened? When I say a condo conversion, I mean a multifamily building that was converted into a condo. There was a period between the 70s and the 80s where condo conversions were very popular. So this isn't a developer going in and building a new building. This is a group of folks getting together and forming a condo association, right? And they're converting an apartment building into a condo, and now they own their property. They have their common elements, and they own a percentage of this building. And so those buildings converted to condos, they bought them, and a lot of this happened in Miami Beach. Up and down Collins, all of those buildings where the Surfside Collapse was. I mean, well, actually, that wasn't a condo conversion. That was a condo building. But so many of these multifamily properties that were built in the 60s were converted. They were owned. They've been owned. And now, because they are 60-something-year-old buildings, they are in gross disrepair. I mean, I know you don't like, you're not bullish on it, but I'm going to bring up North Bay Village. Look at North Bay Village.
Dude, North Bay Village. I think you're just trying to trigger me because North Bay Village, the vintage condos, that is the worst market in all of South Florida. Although I will tell you, though, if you are a buyer, that is a market you need to be focused on. So from that perspective, you're right. If you're a buyer.
Peter, I'm losing your video.
Okay.
Can you connect and reconnect?
It looks like I mean, I can turn off some, everything is, let me try to turn off my, I mean, I don't know if that's any better.
Your audio's awesome. Your video is frozen.
It's frozen. It's actually frozen.
Yeah, it's frozen. You want to disconnect and reconnect? We'll keep the
no, maybe it'll come up. Maybe it'll come up good because doesn't Streamlabs upload to the cloud and then they have two separate files and then you just put it together?
Yeah.
I mean, I use Riverside. Yeah.
But your stream's not coming in this way. And I'm looking at the live stream on YouTube and you're frozen on YouTube.
I'm frozen on YouTube. You tell me, you want me to disconnect and then come back in?
Yeah, disconnect and I'll let you right back in. Sorry, folks.
All right.
We
be right back.
We came in hard, no technical difficulties, and we waited right up until the middle for it. Peter will be back with us momentarily, but in the meantime, I don't have any elevator music, guys. It's actually quite lonely in here doing this all by myself. I'm really thankful that Peter. Oh, is he coming back? Is he back?
I'm back. No.
He's back.
How's it going?
He's back.
How's it going?
Wow, that was so
Any better?
easy. No, perfect.
All right, good.
It's perfect. It's perfect, Peter. So we were talking about struggling seniors, and the reason why I wanted to bring it up was because there's always, it seems like every time I read the Herald, there's an article about the affordability crisis, and too often, like we forget about our vets, we forget about our seniors, and so much of this community is built on the backs of the seniors who came down here and propped up the real estate market in the 80s, in the 90s, when nobody else was. And so, yeah, now Miami's super hot, super sexy. Everybody wants to be here. But these folks who own these condos, they're kind of left out to rot. Now, there are condo laws. Thank God that there needs to be a threshold for these condo terminations. I think right now, the latest condo law puts it at 85, but those 85%, but those terminations, those bylaws are based in whatever the law is when that declaration of condo was created. So if that condo was created in 1992, it's probably going to go off whatever the condo law said back in 92, unless the bylaws were amended, which is totally possible. But you can go into a lot of these buildings, they're unanimous buildings where you need 100% of the owner's consent to do a termination, and some of them are significantly less. So where do you see this kind of like tug and pull with seniors, with developers, with investors? Like how does one get into one of these buildings with oftentimes more than 100 units? It just seems so difficult to do. I know you've been a part of some of these, Peter. Can you give us some insight on that?
So, you kind of got two things playing out now, in my opinion. One, you got the seniors. Increasingly, many of the seniors are, they're at that age where they're not using it, and now it falls on the kids. And a lot of the kids still have in their minds, with a few exceptions, at least the ones that I've spoken to, or friends I've spoken to, or people I've met. The kids don't want anything to do with it. It's a 50-year-old building, 60-year-old building. They simply want to get out. They're afraid. They don't want to pay a special assessment. And our ballpark numbers, 3 stories or less, $25,000 special assessment. Let's make it simple. 4 to 14 stories, call it 50 to 75 grand. Over 14 stories, 15 stories or more, call it 100 grand. So these older condos are in need of necessary work. They were maintained very cheap, just like Champlain Tower South, the one that collapsed where nearly 100 people died and $1 billion settlement was paid out. And the kids are just like, dude, I want nothing to do with it. Is there going to be a headache? I gotta, it's going to be back and forth. Let me just dump it. Let me get out of it. So, I don't know if it's accurate to portray it as if what the South Beach scene was in the 80s. But South Beach was going through this transition. You had a lot of the elderly who used to go down there because it was cheap, cheap stay on Ocean Drive. And then it all kind of changed and they all kind of got taken out or they all disappeared. I kind of feel like that's what's happening effectively in all of South Florida and then even parts of the west coast of Florida, which means these people are going to have to go to a place like the Villages, which is up in in and around Orlando area, which is all like over 55 or something, whatever.
Yeah,
But
it's
then you
an
even
over
have to kind of
55
wonder about
community.
that because think about the demographics, Daniel, and I think this is the critical part. So you got the baby boomers, then it falls off with X, then you're going to have the millennials. So you kind of had like a reverse head and shoulders, if you will. So so the X, which should be filling it in, they don't have a big enough number to take it over, and then you got the millennials who are going to follow them, and then Z, that generation is going to, they're not going to have enough. So it's kind of like a camel or however you want to describe it. So as these older people sort of go by the wayside and the kids decide to dump it, I don't know who's there to step in place, especially if we have an immigration policy. Not to talk politics, but if we have an immigration policy that's very restrictive and certain countries are not allowed to enter, if you're a citizen of that country, you're holding a passport of that country, who are you going to peddle this stuff to? And if it's hard to peddle it, doesn't that mean the only way to move it, at least on the condo side, is you got to cut the price?
You got to drop the
So see,
price.
and yeah, so this is sort of the rub, and see, it's not getting better for seniors. And I've said it before, and I'm going to keep saying it. That first special assessment you get, that's not the last one. That's the beginning.
Slippery
It's
slope.
kind of slippery. It's like think about a used car. You take it in. Well, not that I have one. Like I said, I haven't had a car for 12 years.
I have an old car, and every time I take it to the mechanic, I gotta hold my breath.
And that's the point. And that's what's going on with these condos. So ultimately, they are going to be terminated. They're all going to get blown out. And as they get blown out, the $300,000 condo, remember, no state income tax, 2% property tax annually, $300,000 condo suddenly gets replaced by $1.3 million condo at 2%. So you can see why the school board, the county,
Oh, they're
and the
all
city,
about it.
they want it.
Oh yeah, we talk about this week after week. That $50,000 condo, if it's homesteaded, let's
Yep.
say it's gotten its 3% increase minimally year over year,
Yep.
maximally. I'm sorry. And so now, what's the cost basis of that condo? What's the taxable basis on that? Let's say it's $100,000 a year now after decades, right?
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
now this person is paying $2,000 a year in taxes. That same dirt, I can come in, take it off your hands. Hell, I'm a developer. I'll give you $1 million for that unit. I don't care. I'm going to make so much money on this development. And everybody's pushing me along. The municipality loves it. The school board loves it. Everybody loves it because they know that I'm going to sell this new dirt for $3 million. So now that transaction, when that transacts, the taxable value for maybe the same square footage is going to be $60,000 a year, a 30x return on the taxable income here. I mean,
A lot of reasons. If you're on the government side, plus think about all the jobs. Think about the jobs that follow. I mean, it's just it goes on and on and on. Yeah, so I think really they're all getting pushed out. Anybody in fixed income, and what about over 55 communities? Remember that was a thing down here. You go up to Hellendale or
I think
Hollywood, Hellendale Beach or Hollywood,
I
a
think
lot of
it's
over
still a
55
thing.
communities.
I think it's still a thing. Maybe less so in Miami. It's too expensive.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
I mean, it's funny. We were talking about the MLS. I see the little toggle on the MLS. Is it an over 55 community? I've never had to toggle that. That's not something. It's not something that I see. So in terms of, and we're over time with struggling seniors, buy, sell, hold. What is a senior to do? What is your advice, Peter? Like sell and get out of Dodge before the condo
Yeah.
market collapse, and that condo that you think is worth $1 million really isn't.
Well, I think if I'm a senior and I'm in one of these condos, first of all, if it's good dirt, let's say it's east of, it's got to be east of 95. Let's say it's east of Biscayne Boulevard in Dade County or Federal Highway up in Broward County or Palm Beach County. If it's east of there, I would probably try to rent it along the way because if it's good dirt, it will be a developer knocking on your door. And if you can get a rent and you paid that price that we were talking about, 50 grand a door, which means you need what, $500 a month of rent,
Right, you're
ballpark.
getting that
You know,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I would just say I would be renting if I were the kids or I was talking to the kids and they were getting the property. I would just rent it along because the developer will come in and take you out. It's a question of when, but as long as it's it can make sense. I would probably not sell it, assuming you bought cheap. Now, if you paid a lot, I would dump that thing ASAP because I think the price you're going to get today is going to be a lot more than the price you're going to get tomorrow. Personally, on an old building for a new buyer. So,
So
but
so
but I
it's
think the
it's
seniors they're disappearing.
so we're hold with an asterisk.
Yes, yeah. Well, yeah. No, I think that the story's already been written for the seniors in South Florida. I don't see how they make a resurgence, especially again with the fact of that that
Well, just
demographic. You got the
dirt's
baby
so
boomer,
expensive.
the X, and the millennials.
All right, so I'm gonna say sell. Err on the side of
Yeah.
caution. Go get 5 acres in North Carolina, or you don't even have to go that far. But no, I mean that's what people are doing. It's nice. You can get land. There is land in the United States, Peter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's land, but you don't necessarily get internet and
No, you get Starlink. All
yeah.
right, so we're
There you go.
selling
Exactly.
that.
Starlink.
I want to jump over now to the Rickenbacker Causeway. We had some technical difficulties last week, but the Rickenbacker Causeway, Raquel Regalado released a plan to create a viaduct. Now, for those of you watching who don't know what a viaduct is, I also had to look it up. A viaduct is an overpass. It's an overpass. You can say semantics and get very technical with me, but it's an overpass. So they want to create. They're citing that the Rickenbacker Causeway is aged and it's dangerous. I don't argue with that because I used to be a cyclist. I've had too many friends and family members and people I know and love get hit by cars on the Rickenbacker Causeway. I think these people are nuts for cycling on the Rickenbacker. But that being said, every few years somebody gets hit. It's all very public. Somebody dies. There's a DUI, whatever, and then the city or the county has to step in and make like a little minor improvement. So they'll put up some bollards or they'll put up some plastic things like that's going to stop a 60-mile-an-hour car from hitting a cyclist. And I appreciate that there needs to be a bigger investment, a more cohesive idea of what safety on this 2.5 mile long stretch is. Because the Raquel Regalado plan, I'm just going to call it the Raquel Regalado plan. I don't know who actually came up with it, but it's a 400 and something $1 million plan to reimagine the 2.5 mile stretch from the bottom of the big bridge to the end of the Bear Cup Bridge. So the big bridge and the little bridge, right? That's what we always call it, big bridge and the little bridge. So going from there, past the Rusty Pelican, past the decrepit Marine Stadium, all the way into Crandon Park, and they want to spend 400 and something $1 million on this. You've been a proponent of extending the Metro Rail to the Broward County line, which people use, and we're talking multi-$100 million to fix a 2.5 mile stretch of existing roadway. I can appreciate that the Bear Cut Bridge has to be replaced, but come on, really? There's already a road there.
Well, and and that's the point. What's at the end of the rainbow? The end of the rainbow of this bridge is Key Biscayne. And when you get to Key
Yes, sir.
Biscayne, you had a lot of old shitty houses built after World War II that were
The
replaced with
Mackles, the Mackle
massive,
brothers.
yeah, old man Mackle. They they had these little crappy houses. All the vets came back, they bought this stuff. It was small, you had green space. Now they're all getting replaced by massive 2-story, even larger mansions. So there's a little bit of coin in Key Biscayne.
Well, David
I
Martin
could care less.
just paid $200 million for a nice beachfront development site there. And if you're competing with the likes of the St. Regis and the Mandarin and 1428 over in Brickell, and you're trying to sell $10 million units, but who's buying these $10 million units, Peter? When are they going to go to look at the sales center? Because during the week they're working, so they're going to have to drive to the Key and off the Key on a Saturday. Have you ever tried to make that drive on a Saturday? It is awful. You're going to get caught at a country music festival.
It's probably only surpassed by Sunday, right before sunset, coming back.
Gosh, and
from Crandon Park, where the
Crandon Park. You got Crandon Park, you got Bill Baggs Park, and you have Virginia Key. So, I'm not even talking about the
OB
marina
Beach.
traffic.
Yep.
So unless you got a chopper, which hey, maybe you do, it's a tough sell, and I get it. Key Biscayne is its own bubble. The people who live in Key Biscayne love Key Biscayne. People recently arrived to Miami will stretch themselves so thin to live on Key Biscayne, despite being able to get a much better deal in somewhere like the Rhodes or Shenandoah. They want to live in Key Biscayne. I get it. But
listen, I got the solution.
Tell me.
I got the solution. They put up a toll booth when they opened the Rickenbacker, named after a pilot, old man Rickenbacker. They got a toll booth. Jack up the fee on the toll booth. Anybody who wants to participate and drive over Bear Cut Key or Bear Cut, whatever they call the bridge. What is it? Bear Cut Bridge? Bear Cut?
No, so the big one is the Powell Bridge, and then the little one is Bear Cut.
Yeah, but Bear Cut's the one that's got the structural issues. It's the one that
The Bear Cut's the one right next to the Sequarium.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we keep in place a Rickenbacker toll in order to get into the big bridge?
Oh,
and
so
then
we got two tolls.
Then you go over the little bridge because you're going to Key Biscayne because you live in a massive mansion. Hit them with another toll. It's easy. Put up some SunPass collectors. They can take photographs as you drive through.
Toll.
Take the cash and fix the bridge.
Peter the Economist. Hey, I hope Raquel Regalado is watching this, or maybe we should just send her a copy of this. I think that's a great idea. Toll it up. Look what they did in Manhattan. Toll it up. Look what they did in London.
And then put a toll going into Key Biscayne. That's all you got to do. As soon as you drive into Key Biscayne past Crandon Park, put an extra toll in there.
Yeah.
But what you should not do is raise the price of parking at Crandon Park, which is the public beach. You don't want to penalize those people, like maybe me. You want to penalize the people who live in the old condos and the mansions on Key Biscayne. Because remember, Key Biscayne, from a tax collecting perspective, you got some real high valuations. Again, 2% property tax. A third goes to the city, third goes to the school board, third goes to the county.
No. Actually, Key Biscayne has the lowest millage in the county of Miami-Dade. Do you know that? They actually pay.
But the value is so high. The amount of money they're collecting.
Yeah, no. It doesn't matter, big. Right? Like the absolute value. But I think their millage comes out to right around like 1.6% actually.
Jack it up to pay for the bridge. Jack it up.
Yeah. So this reminds me, you brought up the toll. There was another plan, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. There's probably been many plans over the years, but they called it Project Z, Plan Z. Do you remember that? And they were going to...
No, I don't remember that one.
Yeah, the city of Miami was going to give them a 99-year lease. It was going to be they were going to turn it into a private roadway. And it was going to be private money.
Okay.
And the constituents, thank the Lord, came out and said, absolutely freaking not. And I think this was right when social media was really getting used for grassroots and political upheaval. And the people stood up and they did the right thing and they squashed that plan. This is sort of like a bastardization of that plan because it keeps it a public road, but it's using a gross amount of public funds. And you know how the city and the county do not have a great history with large infrastructure projects using public funds. Marlins Ballpark. So I'm a sell on this plan. We're gonna keep our finger on the pulse of it.
Daniel. Yeah, before you move on, I just looked it up on Google. 14,000 people in Key Biscayne is the residents. Listen, dude, take the money. What'd you say, $450 million for this bridge?
I think it might be more, but we
All
can
right,
find
all
it
right.
right now.
Take the money from the bridge, extend the Metro Rail. Extend the Metro Rail, take it all the way up to Broward County. Many more people, and now granted, there might be extra. Take it all the way up to Broward County. Many more people are going to be able to utilize it, enjoy it, rather than the 14,000 that live in Key Biscayne. And if they want to pass a surcharge or millage, jack up their millage to help contribute to it, I mean, why not? 14,000 people? You kidding me? I mean, how many people live in? Let's just just because we're doing this, and we can move on. But just for shits and giggles, so Miami Gardens is actually where Joe Robbie or what do they call it? Hard Rock Stadium is. So if the train were to go up 27th Avenue all the way up the Broward County line, you get to Miami Gardens. How many people live in Miami Gardens? 110,000. So we're going to spend this cash to improve a bridge. Don't get me wrong. I mean, make sure it's safe. But you don't have to go over the top. So you're going to
doesn't cost $400 million
people
to fix a bridge that is less than a mile long.
But you can't take the train for 110,000 people in Miami Gardens. And by the way, the train would go through Opelika, and I am on a board of directors for a real estate group for Opelika. It used to be Opelika Economic Development Authority. Now it's called 10 North, but just for disclosure. So, but take the train to Broward County. People like me would use, well, not that you want me using, but other people will be able to use it rather than building a bridge for 14,000 people. And those people go to Crandon Park for the sand. They don't even have the tennis tournament there anymore.
They don't.
Well, I mean, what's the justification for this coin?
Yep. So
I am a
just
sell.
to be clear, you are a hard sell on this.
Sell. Dump. I'm sell.
Sell with a double asterisk.
Yeah. 100%.
So I'm gonna pull something up on the screen right now. You haven't seen it. I just saw it. I think it's interesting and it's relevant because, Peter, you know what an EB-5 visa is?
Yeah, that's when you make an investment in some sort of instrument. The instrument then used to finance construction, and in return, you get fast track for a green card.
Right. So that's EB-5 visa. There's a few projects going on in Miami right now. The ones off the top of my head, there's Visions in Brickell, and then there's River District 14. If you are if you want to have a green card, you can invest $1,050,000 into these projects. They pay very little interest because you're not doing it for the investment, really. You're doing it for the fast track for you and your immediate family.
Skip the line. Kind of like Disney.
Skip the line. But, and I'm sure anybody watching has heard of the Trump gold card. Are you seeing my screen? Do you see it?
Yeah, that's the one that's $5 million. You spend $5 million and they'll give you a green card.
Yeah, so I pulled up the website for the Trump gold card. And I mean, yeah, that's a look at it. It's a official website of the United States government. Look at that.
Wow. So they're actually accepting money now.
No, I think it's just like you can put in your name, where you're coming from, yada yada. For, I guess they're building a mailing card, trumpcard.doc.gov. But
wow.
All right. What baffles me is, so are they killing the EB-5 program? Because if I want to come here and get a green card, why would I spend $5 million if I could do it for $1 million and make 1% back on my money? By the way, I'm getting the money back. It's an investment, right? I'm not spending $1 million. I'm investing $1 million. I will get the money back with interest. I just need to have the cash. This is give me $5 million, putting it in federal pockets or somebody's pockets. I don't know. What's going on here? Have you heard anything about the EB-5 visa program? Like, dying? Because that's actually a huge industry. There, to have these EB5 regional centers. I've talked to some people about this. These are tremendous businesses because it's not only $1,050,000, right? It's not $1,050,000. All these regional EB5 visa centers, they collect fees on top of that. So they'll charge like an extra $30,000 or $40,000 fee for processing this application because there are a lot of people who are seeking out these types of investments.
Yeah, boy, I got a couple different thoughts on it. So generally speaking, I've been to a lot of the presentations for the EB5 when they first started rolling it out. And the big issue was from a real estate professional perspective, your license was to sell property. It wasn't to sell like instruments, which an
Right.
EB5 was. So it created a lot of headaches for realtors who would bring in a would-be buyer, and that buyer, once they did that, how could they get paid unless there was some sort of end around, because you needed like a broker dealer license.
Yeah, you
or
need
some
like
sort
a
of
Series
license.
7.
Yeah, exactly. So you kind of had that. The other thing is you had some projects that were announced going forward that never played out. Now some did. One of the big ones was Panorama Tower on Brickell Avenue. Tibor Hollows Group did, but there's another one that they were
Oh, is
trying
that
right
an
there on
85?
yeah,
Was that
yeah,
supposed to be an
79th
85?
Street in Biscayne, the old INS. That was an EB5. They were trying
Oh,
to go
I
EB5
remember
on
that.
that.
Yeah.
And that thing crapped out. So the old INS building where people used to back in the day, they used to call it Immigration Naturalization Service. Now they call it ICE. But that's where everybody would show up on 79th Street and Biscayne Boulevard in Miami. And there was a mall across the street, two-story mall, schlocky mall. But people would go there and you could get your photographs for your visa, your passport, fingerprint, all that type of stuff. And then that disappeared. It got sold to a group. I think they were Asian based. It might have been China, but it could be, I don't know if it's Hong Kong or whatever, but anyways, or Canadian based. It was elsewhere.
Genting, right?
No, it wasn't Genting. So then they went forward and they bought this site. They stripped out the INS building and they were going to make it a hotel. And I used to joke, yeah, if you want to relive your
shell of itself.
If you want to relive your visa days, you can spend the night in this hotel in the former INS. So that was my dark humor. But yeah, they were supposed to do all this stuff. They did nothing whatsoever. But that was an EB5 at some point. So you kind of had both sides of it. And then if the project doesn't go forward and you have to have your money tied up, I don't know what the repercussions are. I'm simply asking a question. I put my money in there. I'm supposed to be fast track, but if the project goes sideways, do I still get my fast track for my visa, or is it dependent? Is it contingent upon? But the one thing that jumps out to me, Daniel, with the ad you just sent me, Donald Trump and developers, their key is to try to eliminate buy-side brokers. When Donald Trump was selling his condos, or his kids are selling the condos now. So you want to eliminate buy-side brokers because you don't want to have to pay out a commission. On new construction condo, it's 5%, but increasingly they're paying 7% commission to the broker who brings in a would-be buyer. Yep. So what I'm seeing there is I'm seeing a registration form, much like they do in pre-construction. Hey, you want information about this brand new project? You'll be first on the list. You go ahead and do it. Now you're able to circumvent and basically knock out any prospective broker. But just think about it. If you get all these people with $5 million or more who want to apply for it, wouldn't that be a great email list to sort of share if you want to try to peddle condos, whatever city? I mean, I'm thinking out loud. And then you bring in some of the software companies.
We're not selling a gold card. We're selling stuff.
Yeah, it seems like you build up this database of people you can basically just peddle expensive stuff to, because the cost of entrance is $5 million. Even if you don't have $5 million, I'm sure they would have like a gold, silver, bronze.
So wait, do I sign you up right now?
Dude, I am a minimalist. Clothes, I only wear white or black. Black when I'm going out, white when I'm working. That's it. No car. Keep it simple.
Do you think
that does not interest me?
So do you think this is gimmick, or I kind of like I'm building a list of people who have at least $5 million liquid to throw around.
I mean, that's what it looks like. And then, the president has a meme coin. Wouldn't it be great to cross-pollinate all of this if you're able to collect all these people who have an interest? And then if you're a hacker, oh my God, you totally want to penetrate that database, because think about it, you got a hit list of everybody. I mean, what could go wrong?
A lot can go wrong. All right, that brings us to our last topic, and that is the drum roll condo termination of the week.
All right.
I like this segment because, well, we're seeing more and more of them every week. at some point, could be a Monday, could be a Tuesday, could be a Friday, I wake up and I'm reading about a new termination or a rumor of a termination that winds up materializing in a few weeks after that. There's been a bunch going on in the Grove. Grove is hot. This one in
Best
particular,
condo market in all of South Florida based on our index. The Grove.
Coconut Grove.
By far, double the South Florida average. And the Sunny House Beach, for instance, coming in like 4 point something. The Grove is 15. South Florida average is like 7.18 or something. So yeah, Grove is blowing it away.
So I heard that Edgardo de Fortuna has purchased, paid $37.5 million for a small building in Coral Gables, actually. So,
Okay.
you know, right there behind the Thesis Hotel.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to pull it up on the map now. Um,
How many units was it?
how many units were in the buyout? I'm not sure.
Yeah, the termination.
But the plans are. It's there. Do you see my screen?
Let me see. Yes, I do. Oh no,
Yeah.
no, I don't. No, I don't.
No, you don't. All right.
Nope.
There needs to be an easier way to do this. You should see it now.
There we go. Yep.
So we're looking at. So you got here, and then the
Yep.
red dot is the side of the termination. So it's on. They call it the Mahi Waterway. It's like an offshoot from the Gables Waterway. So you have Alhambra Circle. All these houses are on the water, and then there was this little building here, the Gables Waterway Apartments.
Okay.
I don't know if it goes all the way across. This looks like a separate office building, but it's this right here. All that surface parking. I know Peter loves surface parking when we're talking about
Termination.
large
Surface parking means termination.
underutilized land. But yeah, I mean, we've been seeing condo termination. We've been talking about condo terminations in Coconut Grove. We've seen them in North Bay Village. Gosh knows that Brickell Bay Drive is going to be seeing a lot more of them. I think that's probably the next big spot.
That's the mother lode, Brickell Bay Drive. That area
Brickell Bay
from
Drive.
15th Road up to like 13th or whatever it is. Yeah, that's the mother lode. Basically east of the Four Seasons on Brickell Avenue.
So let me pull it up. Now that we're on the map, when we're flying around the map, that's fun, right? Right?
Yep.
So
There you go. Brickell Harbor right on the corner. I don't know if you remember during the Great Recession, they actually shut it down because they weren't doing their necessary work. So everybody had to pack their stuff and leave. That there on the left-hand side, bottom left, right where the road turns.
Right here.
There you go, Brickell Harbor.
This one.
Yeah, right on the edge. Yep, there you go. Yeah, that thing was vacated. Everybody had to leave, grab their stuff. They had to pay a special assessment. They had to pay maintenance. They had to pay mortgage if they had one. And then they had to pay property tax. Then they had to pay to live somewhere else because it was not managed correctly. So that was like the precursor to everything we see now as a result of Surfside.
But look at all these buildings here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll call it right there. 7.
Tear them down. Yep.
Flop. I mean, what are the as talking about the Regalatos, as property appraiser Thomas Regalado, what he would think would be the value of new condos along Brickell Bay Drive here. I mean, the tax income for the county, for the city, it's a lot.
Yeah. So if you take the valuations and you take the size, right next door, there's a project that was put up there by who the hell was it? Was it PMG? Right on the corner there, 15th, across the street from JP Morgan building.
Oh, Echo.
Echo, yeah. So I think that was PMG. So if we take the unit count there and we just sort of mimic it in and around, or maybe you take the Four Seasons just to give some perspective. I would imagine anybody buying these little teardowns, look at how much space you have as a result of the surface parking. Remember, surface parking, balconies, look at the balconies if they're not glass, and then under 100 units. This is gold. This is exactly what you want. But now when you go to buy it, you got to price it out based on what can I build on it. If somebody were to roll it all in together, oh my God. Maybe you take, what are there, 6 of them, 8 of them? Like if you had them in
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I call it 7.
Yep, yep, yep. So, you and then don't forget the original Architectonica building site that they already tore down. They tried to go forward. I think there was some pushback. I don't know what the latest is. I think there was the one right next to Emerald.
Oh, this
If you
one
look at
over here.
no, no, no,
No,
no, a little
Emerald.
bit.
Emerald's this
No.
one. Fortune House.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's a little sliver. You'll see a little sliver, catty corner from Jade. That's where the Architectonica's first building was. So they bought it and they got to prove it. Yeah, there you go. Yep. And they were going to put up 50-story tower. They were going to shoehorn in there. So just imagine if you could put pairs of these sites together. But it ultimately, it's going to happen at some point. Do you go in there aggressively and try to buy, or do you sit back and wait for them to cry uncle, and then you're able to sort of take it down at a much more reasonable price? But the formula is very simple. Formula is very simple. Okay, what can I sell the building out at? I.e., what's the price per square foot? How much can I get? Let's just say you can sell it for $500 million. I'm just going to ballpark it. $500 million is going to be much more than that. But $500 million, I need to make 30% spread, 33%. So let's just take off the $500 million. We're going to take off what, 170 million. So 170 is going to be the profit or whatever, and then we gotta build and do the soft cost and the hard cost based on the rust. And of that, we're going to have 10 to 20% that's allocated towards dirt. That's what we can play based on how many units we can actually put up on the site. So again, it's not what kind of granite you have. It's not your view. Nobody gives two shits. What they care about, what can I put on there? But increasingly, because of Live Local and other stuff, you got areas where, and this might be one of them, you could put up 1,000 units an acre. Now the numbers can work. Now the numbers can work very interestingly. Right. So, I mean, think about that. How many acres would be around? There's not much, but because of I don't know what the zoning is, but because of the potential, you could shoehorn them in. It'd be like a honeycomb. Just put all these things together, or make like they're doing in Saudi Arabia. The one city. It's entire. It's just like a long building, big rectangle.
I wonder if Brickell Bay Drive has some like local protections in terms of height.
Yeah, but Live Local Act will steamroll that.
Oh no, Live Local Act will steamroll it.
Yeah.
But what I mean, developers must be pulling their hair out because all they want to do is high luxury there. Oh no, we have to build affordable apartments on the water. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we have to do that.
Yep. Well, remember though, you Daniel, the lofts, right, in downtown, loft 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
So those originally were supposed to be the solution for workforce housing. So the theory was you had to have a certain income in order to buy in there. But at the end of the day, when they sold that stuff, they sold it to like politicians and stuff who were buying them to flip them and retrade them. So, there's always what's recommended, and then there's what's happened. It's kind of like Marlins Ballpark, the $1 billion situation. When they opened up, it was the first major league ballpark first ballpark in Major League Baseball that was smoke free. You couldn't smoke. Dude, the first year you went in there, you went to certain areas, everybody's like smoking. And who was smoking? The employees, the guys selling beer when there used to be crowds, all that type of stuff. So in Miami, it's always like, okay, this is what you're supposed to do. And then the way it plays out a little bit differently. So what I'm saying is that's prime real estate. Somebody will be able to take it down. They're probably hoping that there's a major pullback so they're able to really sort of, crush these sellers, pick it up at a reasonable price, but ultimately it will be high-end stuff. And then your comparable would be what the St. Regis are doing just south on the old teacher site. So that'll be your comparable.
The St. Regis is going up right over here. Here, I'll pull it up here now. So the St. Regis is well, they haven't updated the Google Maps, but it's going up right here. That's why if you have one of these southern units at the Santa Maria, you can get one of these corner units in this cylinder here. So Santa Maria was built by Hugo Colombo, same guy we talked about last week, everybody loves. He built this cylindrical tower just before, see this one right here, this blue one, Bristol Tower, right before he built the Santa Maria, which was like the next big one. Significantly more units, just bigger project. I think this was maybe the last farmland that got sold on Brickell Avenue. You wanna fact check me on that, Peter? This was owned by a family, right?
Yeah, no, I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was Mayor Ferre. Maurice Ferre. I want to say that was their family. It was either that or a Bristol Tower, but I think it was Santa Maria. Was Maurice Ferre, former mayor of Miami? They named the park in downtown Miami, used to be called Museum Park, named after him. I want to say that was his site because Hugo went forward with Bristol, and everybody's like, you can't build it. There's no condos. 1980s.
And it's still
Drama.
and these buildings, some of these units are trading despite being 30-year-old buildings,
Yep.
still at 1,500 dollars a square foot, more in some cases.
Well, I mean, quality is quality, and the issue is as you go forward and you buy this new stuff, what you find is, because construction is so expensive, they can't give you the same square footage. Back in the day, a one bed was 1,200 square feet. Now it's 700, 750, just to give
To
you that, and the quality completely different.
to Tibber Hollow's credit, though, and his development corporation, the Panorama one bedrooms are
Yep.
large. They're over a
Okay.
thousand
Oh,
square
really?
feet.
Okay.
Yeah, I think. I mean, if you're okay renting from an institutional landlord, I don't,
Yep.
and you want to live in Brickell, I don't think that's a bad deal. I've been up to units there, and you can live in a multifamily. This is a multifamily building. It's an institutional landlord, and you can be on the 70th floor looking at the bay. I mean, that's pretty cool. We're not talking about a garden style mid rise in Hialeah, you know. And by the way, those
Oh,
garden
hell
style
yeah.
mid rises in Hialeah are they're rented and they're paying.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Um,
All right.
we're
So,
we're just about on time. I know you wanted to talk about Crescent Heights because you always talk about when so and so buys land, you want to get in on their coattails, and when so and so is selling dirt, you want to be following them out the door. And you mentioned right before we jumped on that Crescent Heights, there was a rumor that they unloaded their headquarters, and I found it, and I'm going to pull it up for us. So tell me what you heard, Peter.
well, I say if you want to know what's going on with the real estate market, you gotta watch the market makers. It's kind of like if you're going to the horse track, and I don't recommend gambling. Well, unless you win. So when you go to the horse track, you bet the horse. Oh, look at how pretty the horse is. You bet the number. Oh, it's my favorite number. Or you bet the jockey because that jockey knows how to take a shitty horse and get it over the finish line and possibly win. So when it comes to the residential market, my perspective in South Florida, if you want to know what single family house market's going to do, you bet Lennar. Watch Lennar. Lennar is a publicly traded home builder, but they've been doing it forever and ever and ever. The Millers. So if they sell, you sell. If they buy, you buy. And on the condo side, one of the names I'd put up there is Russell Galbert of Crescent Heights. If whatever Russell's doing, follow his path because he's been here on the ground, complete understanding. They got it all covered. So just you don't have to reinvent anything. It's like some investors will follow Warren Buffett. Well, when he was active, they would follow whatever he was doing. They would sort of just, they'd mirror it. So Russell Galbert is one of the many developers I would say watch on the condo side. And lo and behold, this week it's reported that Russell Galbert sold his headquarters site, which is right there on 22nd and Biscayne Boulevard, fronting Biscayne Boulevard. It's on the west side. It's an area where everything's popping, it's blowing up. He's got other dirt just to the north, again on Biscayne Boulevard. So, the lifeblood of developer is ultimately dirt. If you don't have dirt, what are you going to do? That's why we raised the question a couple weeks back, about Swire Properties dumping off their marquee site right there at 8th and Brickell. And I made the case, hey, maybe they're afraid there's going to be a downturn and they want to load up on cash. So they got dry powder. So when the thing goes sideways, now you're seeing, so Swire Properties dumps its site. Mellows buy it. Mellows know what they're doing. So let's call it a push. Crescent Heights dumping. That sort of raises the question, why would Crescent Heights dump its headquarters? Well, they need more space. They built something new, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's fine. But why do you dump your dirt on a key location, 22nd and Biscayne Boulevard? That to me suggests that,
They're building a
it's
war
not
chest or
positive what it
something.
suggests. Well, that's what it sounds like to me. Maybe they're playing somewhere else. They're going to make the case, well, blah, 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 everything is great. But don't listen to what people say. Watch what they do, is what I would tell you. Swire dumps dirt. Crescent Heights is dumping dirt. Mark the calendar, mid-June 2025. If we see a downturn and you see Crescent Heights or Swire starting to pick off stuff cheap, remember that they were moving. I'm not saying front running the market, but a lot of times they will move in anticipation. Like remember, Africa Israel was a big developer down here, supposed developer in the run up to the Great Recession.
They did the marquee,
They
right?
had everything. They had everything. The only thing they put up was marquee. Only thing they put up. They basically dumped it all. Russell Galbert and Crescent Heights picked it all off. What is it? Five Park in South
Yeah,
Beach.
Five
As soon as you
Park
go
in
over.
South Beach. They just
Yeah, that was
delivered.
Africa Israel's. They lost it. They lost it. Well, they dumped it to Crescent Heights. So I'm just saying, certain people you watch and what they do, I would suggest you pay attention to what they do. And Russell Galbert and Crescent Heights is one of them. By the time, by the way, I have done consulting for them in the past. I don't. I'm not doing it now. But this is a tell, in my opinion.
So, well, that wasn't on the rundown because we added it right at the end. So we're seeing Russell Galbert sell. We're seeing Swire sell. We're selling too, right?
I would say you would, yeah. Don't, I mean, what do they say? Don't fight the Fed. Well, this is an example. Don't fight the developers who know what the hell they're doing, is what I would tell you.
And
so
then,
that would definitely be a sell.
And then on the converse, on the flip side of that coin, we have developers coming in pretty aggressively and taking advantage of folks who are hit with these crazy insurance rises and maintenance rises with these condo terminations. So we see these guys selling dirt, but we see other people buying out condos for termination.
Yep.
Are the buyers of condos, is Ricardo de Fortuna, he's just got the cash. He doesn't need to sell dirt because he's got the cash.
Well, and it could be one of those situations where simply you got the cash, or maybe they're assembling something bigger. What are the neighboring properties? They might be assembling. They might be, because keep in mind Edgardo de Fortuna, crafty, very crafty. When they put up the Ritz-Carlton Sunny Isles Beach, so right when you're driving on A1A or Jimmy Buffett Boulevard, which they call now, I just like to say Jimmy Buffett Boulevard.
I love it.
So you're driving up Jimmy Buffett, yeah, you're going from Bell Harbor. You cross over the inlet. You're going on the beach. You go past the nude beach. That'll be on your right-hand side or to the east. Now you're coming right up in the Sunny Isles, and you see these rock star towers. And right in front of it, you got a schlocky little dumpy, like 8-story condo called, Tropicana. So Edgardo de Fortuna, him and Grosskopf, according to lawsuits and stuff, they went in there and started using different corporations to buy enough units to block, from a vote perspective, a termination. Because they didn't want another building going up right next to the Ritz-Carlton Sunny Isles Beach and blocking their views. So there might be more than what you see related to this. I mean, that number sounds like a big number. What did you say? 37.5?
37.5 million.
And how many units were there? Did it say anything like that?
I didn't see how many units, but the plan is to put 251 units.
All right, so let's just run the numbers real quick. Just at 37.5. I'm just running the numbers real quick. And how many units did you say?
251.
251. So they're paying 150 a door for the dirt. So you figure they're going to sell them for what? I don't know. Let's say it's 10% for dirt. It might even be less for dirt. I don't know. Probably going to put up $1 million condos or something. Whatever the case may be.
That's
a
lot of units. I mean, 250 units in Coral Gables is a lot. Remember, we're not going vertical in Coral Gables. Although I wonder,
it could be live local though.
Man, Coral Gables.
You rent them out to university students, and then you take the rest and you sell the condos to their parents.
Hey,
maybe do an Airbnb thing, or no. Edgardo's smart. He's done a lot. I remember when he was first getting started, he put up the Jade Brickell, and at the time, just to give you like context, at the time they were asking $500 a foot, and everybody was like, "What? $500 a foot on Brickell? Are you batshit crazy?" Because that's what the beach was getting. And when he put it up, they had to get, my words, not theirs. They had to get a co-signer, a custodian, a guardian. So they brought in Swire to help them walk them through the first project, because that was the first one they were doing.
No shit.
So they put that thing up at $500 a foot. Yeah. And now, now he's got street cut. Remember, the first project, you always lose your ass or it goes sideways in Miami. And then if you live to fight another day by the second project, now you've kind of learned, and so on and so forth. And you want a perfect example, Daniel? Look at Bristol Tower. Bristol Tower was Ugo's first. And then he followed suit with Santa Maria. Now compare the two. Now he made it bigger because he realized.
No, I mean, it's bigger and better. It's a very similar design. You have the two, if Bristol's 100%. One cylinder, Santa Maria is 2 cylinders with a middle part. It's
Yep.
just it's like 3 Bristols, right?
Yep.
I
Yep.
like the
Yep.
Bristol Tower project a lot, and now he's gone, totally out of left field. No more cylinders. He's doing Vita, which is I think
Vita.
60 something units. Fact check me on that. I think it's 63, 64 units on Grovile. We can talk about that till we're blue in the face. We'll save that for next week. I just want
Well,
to.
and don't forget before you shut it down, don't forget, Checker, the former site of Checkers Burgers, or the site of formerly of Checkers, Biscayne Boulevard in like 15th, 14th,
Wait, you're talking
right
about
next to
across the
his.
street from the Omni.
Yeah, yeah. So on the other side of Checkers, going south, where Checkers used to be, he's got that little office tower. He's got a dealership for collection. His dealership in the Gables. But that one's slated. That one was slated for 50-story tower called the Chelsea. So he does have some dirt there. If Ugo puts a shovel in the ground, or if Russell Galbert sells dirt, these are tells. Is what I would. That's the only thing I would tell you. So just pay attention would be my takeaway. Edgardo taking down dirt. Chances are he's got a bunch of investors. They want to park their money in the United States for whatever reason. Maybe I don't know. The dollar has been weakening, so it could be something like that. Who's to say? But these are people who know what they're doing.
I'm buying with Edgardo, and I'm a sell on the Trump Golden Visa.
Yeah, well, you might sell on the Visa, but you want to buy on that database that they're creating of all these people who want to burn $5 million for a green card.
And that we ran a little over today, but we had a lot to talk about. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We're gonna chop this up and make it available on socials. We have a backlog of awesome sound bites from Peter and myself over the last few weeks. Thanks for everybody being loyal and supportive. I think we got one concurrent viewer on our live stream, so that's awesome. 17
That's
minutes.
probably somebody who turned it on. They turned it on and they forgot to turn it off. They ran out.
They
They left on
diarrhea.
their computer all weekend.
Come on, give us a little more credit than that. But for everyone else out there, thanks so much. If you're watching this after the fact, my name is Daniel Hernandez. I'm with Compass. And right there is Peter Zalewski. Or if you're watching on YouTube, I'm pointing the wrong way. Right there is Peter Zalewski with Miami Condo Investment Club. He's actually doing a walk. You're doing a walk tomorrow, right?
Yeah, we're doing a walking tour of Brickell Avenue area. We'll go for about
Where's
3 hours.
where's your shameless plug? Where are you picking up? When are you picking up?
So we're gonna meet outside the Brickell Avenue Metro Mover station, caddy corner from 7-Eleven, just down from the Publix at Mary Brickell Village, and we'll head south. We'll end up doing about 4 miles or so. Give you a list of all the different condo buildings. We'll take stops along the way. Tell you stories. You'll laugh your ass off. You'll sweat. You'll get in some steps, and I'll teach you how to analyze condo buildings. Because what I say is, don't go looking for condo units. Look for buildings. Once you find the buildings, you know the ones you can play with. You know the ones that have the fundamentals. Now you start to focus on a particular unit. Too many people jump around chasing this unit and that unit. Then they do the due diligence and they say this building sucks. I don't want to pay the maintenance, whatever. And then they waste a lot of time. So find a building, and then once you got a building, then you pinpoint where you want to be. So I kind of teach people, especially do-it-yourselfers. If you're going to try to do it yourself, take the tour. But anyways, go to miamicondo.club. You can check it out. Tour tomorrow, 10 to 1, 1:30 or so. It's fun. You get some steps in, and probably going to sweat. And it's rain or shine.
So bring a hoodie if you got one. Again, I'm Daniel Hernandez, Peter Zalewski. See you guys next week, 4 o'clock every Friday. Thanks, everyone.
Ciao.